David Villanueva may not exactly cut a rug on the dance floor, but fancy footwork is his specialty. Over the past 3 decades, he's claimed to be a boxer, lawyer, marriage counselor, and a wealthy businessman, going by a variety of names, including David Carter, Dr. David Anderson, and David Whitehead. A man with a talent for deception, who's left a national trail of unpaid debts, unhappy investors, and criminal convictions.
It was crippling. There's no other way to put it. The final number was well north of $3 million.
He actually promised me hope.
I logged into my personal account and I see, oh, check bounced.
It was a scam. It was a fraud.
CBC News has spoken with dozens of people, including one former police officer, who say they've been defrauded by Villanueva, with stories of failed business dealings dating back decades and financial losses totaling in the millions. Many wonder how he's still on the streets.
Everything about him looks like he's successful. He has the nice suits, he's got the gold cards filled with his wallet, he's got the nicest vehicles.
Neil McCormick was just starting his career in 2006 when Villanueva hired him to set up 2 Nova Scotia call centers. 6 months later, Villanueva suddenly disappeared, leaving more than 40 employees and a string of creditors looking for money.
We went to the RCMP to say, look, we need a fraud investigation opened up. And that's when we found out that he was actually a convicted felon who was under house arrest the entire time that this was going on.
And there was another surprise for McCormick. Villanueva had set up a new company under his employee's name and transferred over all his call center debts. More than $3 million, he says.
Trying to prove to companies that you don't owe this debt. It was devastating. It took a decade to recover from.
If you search for Villanueva on the internet, almost nothing comes up, and all of his social media posts have recently been deleted. But CBC News has uncovered the 62-year-old's lengthy criminal past. 6 separate fraud convictions with jail sentences totaling 17 years. In Toronto, he was found guilty of running a fake law firm. In North Bay, he pretended to be a psychologist. There was a sham bid to buy a minor league baseball team in London, Ontario. And now new allegations in Kitchener-Waterloo, where a man calling himself David Auger-Villanueva recruited investors, promising to triple their money overnight in a complicated debt financing scheme.
It would, nothing like the bank. You would not make this from the bank in years. And he goes, just watch me.
Rose Takis met Villanueva through her job at a local jewelry store. After making a small initial investment that paid out handsomely, she was enticed to go all in, remortgaging her house and maxing out a credit card to cobble together $85,000 more, money she hoped to use for renovations. Almost all of it now seemingly gone.
Greed was not involved with this. This was for my family. I wanted to help them in the future to be able to navigate this house and not go into a nursing home.
Villanueva hasn't been charged with any crime in Kitchener, although local police are looking into the allegations first brought to their attention last winter. Many of Villanueva's clients wonder why it's taking so long. CBC News contacted Villanueva to ask about the investor complaints, and he said he was eager to share his side of the story, agreeing to come to our Toronto studios for an interview. But he didn't show up. So it's 2 o'clock, and that's when he said he'd be here, and no sign of him. Villanueva's past crimes are numerous, and authorities didn't mince words about his behavior. His fraud record dates back to 1995 in Sarnia, Ontario, where a judge described him as a liar, vulture, and parasite who preyed on victims like a shark. In parole records obtained by CBC News, one prison psychologist wrote that Villanueva lacked empathy and had a tendency to take advantage of others for his own ends, while another concluded he had the core personality traits of a psychopath.
All this is real hard to manage.
Doran Jinska was hired to do business development for Villanueva's latest venture in Kitchener-Waterloo. The workplace was chaotic, he says, with employees tasked to do jobs they weren't qualified for, and a boss who was quick to anger.
Things didn't add up. The business was, in my opinion, sort of falling apart from the very beginning. It wasn't anything that was supposed to be.
Mostly, Jinska says he felt pressure to invest, even after he told Villanueva that both he and his wife are battling cancer.
He said something that I have something similar. I have to go on a daily basis to Toronto to whatever hospital, but I didn't believe him.
By late 2022, Villanueva was operating 4 different businesses out of this modest Waterloo office. Over the following months, many angry investors came here looking for their money, going so far as to disable the security cameras so that he wouldn't see them coming. Few, if any, were successful. And then at the beginning of April, Villanueva simply disappeared. That's when car dealer Adnan Khan started to worry about the Mercedes GLS he'd been renting to Villanueva. Payments were overdue, messages unanswered. So on April 3rd, he checked GPS tracking data on the car and saw that Villanueva appeared to be heading for the US border.
We called the cops and they cannot do anything, has nothing to do with them. So we called the border services.
In Sarnia.
Yep.
Villanueva eventually drove back to Kitchener, where Khan's employees were waiting to seize the car. It was packed with Villanueva's belongings: size 13 shoes, bags of clothing, and lots of checkbooks and financial documents.
It's pretty good evidence.
So you've talked to the cops, right?
Yep.
And you've told them what happened. You told them that you have all of his possessions and his records.
Yeah.
And what did the police, have they come to get them?
Nope. Nobody came here, nobody did, and I explained it to them. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of evidence, as you can see.
Some past victims, like McCormick, wonder how Villanueva is still free to hatch new schemes after decades of legal troubles.
Every time this man is allowed out, he just starts the cycle again, and millions of dollars are missing. There is a severe breakdown in our system.
So, Jonathon, watching this, I just keep thinking, where's all the money these people invested?
That is really the multi-million-dollar question. We put that to David Villanueva in writing, along with a number of other queries about his past and what's happened in Kitchener-Waterloo. He declined to respond. He's now represented by a Toronto criminal defense lawyer, and so we put these questions to him as well. He too declined to respond or provide a comment, all of which leaves these investors waiting to see what, if anything, is going to happen from this Waterloo Regional Police investigation.
So interesting. We know you're going to stay on it. Jonathon, thank you.
Thank you.